All right, everybody, we're doing podcast number 2 with Mitchell Baldridge. And today we're focused, kind of like we spoke on the last pod, Mitchell. I wanted to kind of break off into something because, and talk about cost segregation and why it's applicable to dentists. Because I got to tell you, with our we were with our mastermind this past weekend. There was 28 dentists in a room, very sophisticated operators. And, and I was having conversations with them about their building or wanting to buy a building. And none of them really knew about this tax advantage situation called cost segregation. And you being the expert in the field, I wanted to bring you on and kind of expand on why it's a good idea that dentists consider doing a cost segregation if they own a building or thinking about owning a building. Before I kind of put you on the stage here, Craig, do you have anything more to add to that from a contextual situation?
Yeah, I appreciate this conversation. I'm thankful that Mitchell, you took the time, and I'm really proud that we're doing this because the name sounds like boring as hell. And there's probably a lot of people that are like, this is not applicable to me, or I'm not going to listen to this. And I'm just encouraging you to get through the initial portion of this because this tool is a massive opportunity for you to keep a percentage of your largest expense in your life, which is not your child's education or your alimony or your cars. It is taxes. If you're doing it if you're living in a state that's very favorable, it's still 35, 38%. Every dollar you can save is the best investment ever. There's no return anywhere we can get 37% on a dollar. So please pay attention. Please pay attention, because if we can help a handful of you through this message save money, legally save money. This is not like some sort of like Trump loophole that
Right.
this is like an actual tax code thing. This is not experimental or pushing the envelope. This is a way for sophisticated people that own a property or are thinking about doing that to save tons of money. So please sit up in your chairs and listen to our friend Mitchell here.
So Mitchell, let's start at the basics. The basic ass 30,000 foot view. Explain to us kind of what a cost segregation engineering study is.
Well, guys, thank you for having me back on. We had a blast last time. This will be good. I've been studying, by the way, more dental terminology that I'm going to throw in at any given time. So be ready.
Quasi dentist.
Huh? Yeah. That was great last time. But
yeah.
So at its most kind of like basic view, look, you have, dentists aren't going to be able to call in from home. You can't remote work. You kind of have to be on site and doing the job, and you have to have kind of in the office culture for the most part.
Correct.
And so this is not a flighty going to go away expense in your business. It's going to be a substantial expense of either rent or property ownership to operate your business out of a central location. So that's just a practical part of being a dentist. So, setting the table, you can rent and you can, quote, throw money away. Well, rent buys you a lot of things. It buys you optionality. It buys you, the ability to maybe save money, maybe kind of understand a lot of things or grow quicker. But ultimately, dentists are high income earning folks who once they get done paying loans and once they get kind of their practice set up and moving the right direction, they have excess cash flow. They want to go invest. And a building is a great place to invest if you need a building anyway, and you can find something great and values go up. So zooming out, when you buy this building, you're going to plunk down a big amount of money. You're going to probably go take out a loan, and you're not going to get, you don't write off that building day one. It's not like a stapler, it's not like buying a bunch of
Dental
plastic gloves. That you don't even think about. You write a check. I mean, you're going to go to the title company. You're going to have the loan documents. it's going to be this convoluted transaction, and you're going to put in some chunk of equity. And what a cost segregation study does in its simplest form is takes that building that you just purchased and kind of blows it into, like, imagine in your mind's eye one of those like blueprint diagrams with every component of the building in that exploded view. Well, we do that retroactively, and we assign a tax life to every single component of that building. And then the end goal is to push forward a lot of the tax deductions into year one and into the first, 5-7 years of building ownership, rather than in its kind of normal function, the cost recovery of that building being 39 years. If you just do nothing and you place a building into service, the government is going to, and the tax code is going to say, okay, we'll divide that building cost, let's say it's $1 million, by 39, and you can deduct, $25,000 a year for the next 39 years. What a cost segregation study does is says, well, no, that's not a 39-year building. It's a 39-year shell full of 5, 7, 15, and 39-year property. And so it allows you to very much push forward the cost recovery of this investment.
So you accelerate the depreciation into
year
time.
one.
Right.
So
can I dumb it down one other layer?
Let's go.
You pay significantly less tax. You keep more money year one. Like
Yes.
the tax implications of the long-winded aspect are just unbelievable. And I just want to take 1 second too and point out how dentists that I've worked with are sometimes so averse to owning real estate. My buddy Michael, one of my besties, yeah, they really are. My buddy Michael, who owns tons of strip centers. He owns like, I think, 1 million square feet. I once had a conversation with a masterminder that started like this. Hey, before you lease the rest of the building you're in, because he was in a 2,000 square feet of a 10,000 square foot building, and before you sign the lease for the 8,000 square feet of the 10,000 square foot building for the next 15 years with 2 5-year options, why don't you consider buying it? He went and talked to his wife, and his wife says, well, I don't really think I want to make that commitment. And I said, it was crass, but I said, well, you actually bought the building, but with your rent, you just don't own it when you're done. And my buddy Michael's like, do me a favor, Craig, don't tell dentists this. do me a favor. Don't actually tell people this that can afford to buy buildings, because that's how I make my money. And I thought, I was like laughing, and he wasn't joking, because it's like, people think like, I don't want to make the commitment to buying the building. I'm a commercial landlord. There's personal guarantees on these real estates. You are committing to your lease. If you want to get out of your lease, you are responsible for your lease. You'll have to buy it out. So I know you said there's optionality in renting, but if you're signing a 15, 20-year lease,
there's not very much optionality over 20 years.
There's not. So
and by the time you're done, look, I mean, there's a large amount of interior build out that has to happen to perform the services of dentistry, right? The plumbing and the concrete and, just the equipment and the setup, and chairs are there. And so it's like, once you're kind of in, unless you are building another building down the street and moving your location. These are the stories that I hear, or using that one as your first. It's not like, hey, we're a law firm, let's pop up a phone and go to work, right? And then just move down the street when we're done.
A pop-up like retail dress shop that's in, or this isn't the
Halloween,
the Halloween,
the spirit store.
Your friend
spray paint
like,
everything black and roll.
I don't want to get, I don't want to get married, so we just signed a mortgage together and had kids. That's the level of commitment of and I mean, so that is why, why Cost Seg for dentists is, you're talking about these 15, 20-year leases. Like I run an accounting firm. When I go talk to landlords about signing a lease, they're talking about 3 years, because I'm going, look, you have to move the break room a little bit, but that break room needs to be moved anyway. Like they're conforming a space to a much broader prospect of future tenants than a dentist's office.
Specializing it, right? So therefore the term has to be much longer, because unless they were going to give you 10, 15 years, the leasehold improvement that they give you to say, hey, we'll give you this much money to build out your space. They wouldn't do that to you because you're signing 3 years.
Yeah.
But kind of once they turn into dental, it's kind of almost like dental in perpetuity, in my opinion.
Oh, that's great.
They're amortizing the tenant improvements over the
100%.
life of the lease, and in order for it to be affordable, it has to be a long time. So then, particularly why dentists, you have this super specialized space that by the time you've retrofitted it or kitted it out to hold your practice beyond even the structure, you are investing hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars to really make this thing perform the way you want it to perform. And then, your clients want to even perform to this next higher level of excellence, which requires even more investment that is hard to move around. Right.
Yep.
So that is, by the time you're done with all of that investment into the building, there's a good argument that you just might want to own the building.
Right.
I'm going to put a little
specialized investment is really another layer too, by the way. The plumbing, the med gases, I was talking to Peter just the other day, about raising his floor of his new building, just because I've heard, to
run lines.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's like
to
the
run
old
those lines
server
because,
farms, of
all the cords and such going everywhere. Well, look, dental cost segregation. I'm glad that I learned about it. I'm sorry, cost segregation. I'm glad that I learned about it a long time ago, right? Because I think it's been very accretive to my net worth, right? In order to, like Craig's saying, keep stuff. So meaning I will close on a building, and the first call I will make is to get a cost seg, Mitchell, right?
Yeah.
And because it's that exciting, meaning you're getting rewarded for the risk that you're taking and saying, cool, you took this investment risk. Now do the cost segregation study to break down your investment and be able to write that off. So it's literally like I make that call almost from the closing table to set up the study to happen. Now it applies both to people who have bought a building, Mitchell, right? And they have retrofitted the building, right? For instance, I bought a restaurant once and converted it to dentistry. And it also applies obviously to stand-up construction. Sorry, standalone or new construction. Ground up. Thank you, Greg. Anything to add on that? Are there any other parameters in which it would apply?
Yeah. So in 2017, the Tax Cuts Jobs Act was passed, and it kind of made, cost segregation and bonus depreciation has been around forever, but they supercharged the whole thing. Like you had mentioned, Peter, like before 2017, you could not cost segregate and bonus depreciate used property. It was only new property, meaning ground up construction. So now you can take a 30-year-old medical building and you're going to spruce it up, or somebody could build to suit your whole building. You could buy it perfectly built up, and although it's a used building, you can cost segregate the whole thing and run that bonus depreciation cycle.
Mitchell, let me ask you before we go on. If a dentist listening to this hears this message and is like, well, shit, I own my building and I bought it a while ago. Well, I don't know. I've never done a cost seg. As a matter of fact, my CPA never told me about it, which is hence like why you'd want to use someone specialized for this, right? If someone is in engineering. Does this message apply? Because actually that was the conversation I had this weekend, was that people owned their building and had never heard of this. And I was like, wow, what a great opportunity potentially.
Yeah. So, they put the law on the floor of Congress sometime in September of 2017. So these buildings that are bought, October 1st, 2017 and forward are eligible for this process. And then you have the option to either go back into that tax year and amend the tax year, so long as it hasn't been a closed tax period, or you can, in the current year, meaning at this point, when you file your 2023 taxes next year, file what's called a 3115 application for change in accounting method. So you can just kind of catch up all the depreciation that you took.
Wow.
Versus what you would have been eligible for if you did it the right way the first time.
Can I
Yeah,
ask you
so
a
it's not a
clarifying
missed
question?
opportunity, right? I mean,
Yeah,
if there's a 6-year look back on this, if someone's listening to this saying, well, shit, I bought a building in 2017.
Not too
18.
late.
Not too
Okay,
late.
but what about
That means-
2015? Just so I understand.
Yeah, so it becomes more complex in 2015, and it becomes case by case where, look, if you built a big new building in 2015, there may be some bonus eligibility that you passed on. But the problem when you go to 15 is that now it's been 8 years. So you've probably already chewed up a lot of the 5, 7, and
Understood.
even a lot of the
Yes,
15-year straight line. I mean, if you never had a cost segregation at all, and it's just 1 divided by 39, and it's a pretty big property, it might be worth getting looked at, because all this does in principle is this is tax jargon mumbo jumbo, but like you're creating a deferred tax liability. You're taking tomorrow's deduction today. So we're not, this isn't alchemy. We're not creating, gold out of water or whatever, but we are taking deductions that would be given to you a long, long time from now and pulling them all back into to today, which happens to be the same time period where you're, taking a bunch of cash into a title company and buying a building. So you want that deduction today. It's really, really valuable for you. And you get the whole, use of your money over time.
Time value money.
Yeah.
I mean, like the fact is, if you can defer the tax liability, you're getting essentially an interest-free loan from the government.
Uncle Sam.
And there's other things that we can, not to confuse the listener, but then there's 1031s, and there's people that actually use real estate as a never-ending deferment strategy.
Mm-hmm. And ultimately, when you die, you step up basis today. So then it just kind of passes through your estate to your heirs and never gets recaptured.
Screw them. Let them deal with it all, right?
Bingo.
That's what I'm saying.
Bingo.
Listen, I fed and clothed you kids. You deal with this crap.
No, they get to sell your stepped up basis asset for fair market value and go party or whatever they're going to do.
Go party. Yeah.
So the reason why we're talking about dentist buildings is because that's really like the big unlock that all dentists can use is they have this space. So like real estate professionals can go do this with apartment buildings or go write syndication checks and all that. But the depreciation is not as accessible. But when you're depreciating a business asset like a, X-ray machine, basically your building is just a huge X-ray machine that the IRS sees.
There you go.
It's not a real estate investment. It's not a passive real estate, rental flow investment. It is a part of your business.
I like that
any
analogy.
other piece of equipment.
That makes sense. I'm sure that's going to resonate with a lot of dentists, right? Because we all know buying the Serac machine, or that's a milling machine, Mitchell. I know you.
Mitchell just bought one. He bought one
because you've been studying now, right?
Do not patronize me. Come on.
Yeah, that was really a low blow. He was before you jumped on. Peter's like, do you like the prime scan or the? And I was really intricate. He said the 5-axis. I didn't even know what that meant. I had to outsource. Mitch, we'll take that offline. Zirconia versus
we'll edit that out, Mitchell. My just my being
He's
rude.
a big Emacs fan. Who would have thought? Flexural.
I could have been a dentist. Okay,
you will be by the end of this.
I will. I like those little toothpicks. Do y'all recommend? While I have y'all here,
plackers.
Yeah. The little.
My head dentists are not wild about them, but I like them, especially if you get the twin line there, Mitchell. The twin line.
Good. But I'll rebuy with the twin line.
Sounds like a sponsored podcast here.
I drive around.
Are you grifting? Peter, are you grifting?
I'm not grifting.
He's a grifter. He's got a plaque shirt on the back.
They talk about, the All In podcast, Mitch. I don't know if you listen to that, but they use that word, the grifting a lot with just like, what's it, Laura Piani stuff?
Peter's going to come with like a plaque or t-shirt next time. Like he's getting swag and I got nothing.
Message. I'm just going to come with one stuck in my mouth. And
twin line. Just
twin
the two
line.
lines.
It does sound like a grift, Peter. I need to talk to you now.
Hey,
after.
he asked me about it. It's not a grift. Okay. I don't even have
the twin line.
Anyway,
what the hell? I'm
Mitchell.
that.
Oh no.
Go ahead.
We broke the pod.
Oh, look at that. He froze. He is
He
definitely,
froze.
he did that on purpose. He's going to try to edit that whole thing out. Go ahead, Peter.
No way.
You got frozen in thought.
Anyway, what I was saying was everyone understands the analogy of like, look at your building like a big CT scan or a big X-ray machine, right? Everyone knows the depreciation on that schedule. Therefore, I think that's all that we need to kind of know about is, right, take advantage of that depreciation quicker so that we can deploy it back into either growing or something else. Like Craig said, the time value of money.
Yeah.
Is there anything like, so what's the process look like? Let's say someone reaches out and says, hey, Mitchell, can you look at my building, right? I know there's engineers that can come out, but there's also one, if it's before, it's a lot of this can be done virtually as well, right? From a cost savings perspective.
Yeah. So it really depends on the size of the building and frankly, the cost of the building in terms of like, what is the materiality of how much we need to get into this. Do you have blueprints? Did you just have an architect kind of draw everything out and engineer the whole retrofit? Because all of these things can help us, but we will either, work with your office manager or property manager to kind of tour the site on what's essentially a FaceTime call, or we will send an engineer out to the property with the clipboard kind of and the camera running through the entire process. And that's just a matter of, first of all, kind of how remote the property is. And second of all, how, big the property is. But, that's definitely a time saving and cost saving measure that we've kind of worked into our process. But yeah, the process is you go to dentalcostseg.com, you fill out the form, you immediately get kind of a proposal of, or I would say, sorry, immediate. In the next, day, 2 days, you'll get a proposal that shows kind of an exact, price. We'll give you the price right up front, and then we'll give you a range of what your savings might be on a conservative side or an aggressive side. But that gives you just like the immediate payback ratio of, if I hand you $1, you're going to turn around and save me 10 or 20 or 8. It just lets you as the investor and as the building owner understand exactly what you're going to save throughout this process.
Yeah, the cost of the study versus the desired outcome of what you would save, right? You're saying, if I give you $1 and give you back 20, how long do you want to do that exchange?
Yeah. That's an easy one. So, and the bigger buildings typically provide higher payback ratios because the cost doesn't like scale linearly. So this isn't like we're going to take 30% of your savings. Like we're going to perform a study. The study's going to cost what it's going to cost, and the payback's going to be what the payback is. And like dentist offices, we talked about this a little bit before the pod, but like they're a treasure trove of this short life property just because you have sinks everywhere, you have lines everywhere. I mean,
gas lines, med
gas.
Yeah.
Like when you're talking about a house, really the idea of like, where does a plug need to be is, how could you run a vacuum cleaner? So, a 2,200 square foot, 2-story house probably needs 8 plugs and probably has 60. Well, a dentist's office, you have 3 more circuit breakers because you're running all of this crazy
vacuums and compressors and everything. Yep. And the lines for those things, the associated plumbing. That's why a real estate agent, the number one tenant they could ever have is a dentist. Because once you put that dental office and you absorb the cost, even if that dentist gets hit by a bus, there's another dentist that's going to want to move into a fully equipped dental office.
And you've built that thing out just completely to do content, and it becomes a laboratory, right? It becomes this fully scaled out property.
Mitchell, I made the mistake of listening to, this was back in when I first did my first Cost Seg, and my CPA is like, oh yeah, I do that too. I do those. I do those. And it came back and it was like, I was like, this is it? This doesn't even make sense. And it was very like, anemic study. There was no real paperwork. It was just, I don't know. It seemed very, yeah, I do this too kind of thing, which I didn't have the chops to know if it was legit or not. So obviously I have the context of that versus like, thoroughness of your reports to understand the depth of where you can really, you want to take someone who's, what I'm going is this,
Sure.
is specialization is key with a niche service like this, right? It shouldn't be, hey, let's see what my accountant thinks. Like,
I do veneers also.
right.
Is not what I want to hear.
Yeah. I think that
I
too.
can do those. I can do
I
extractions.
walk out with the little shaved off nubs and
Right.
nothing else. Yeah.
It's not a nub, it's a prep. Okay.
So then I can't be a dentist. It turns out I can't hang.
You can
But
hang.
so the idea of CPAs love working with dentists because it's an affluent market and it's specialized. So whenever you are doing the bulletproof practice, and whenever coaches talk to CPAs, a dentist is almost an ideal client avatar. Where if you can have a bunch of dentist practices, you're killing it. And so, but the idea of specialization, I mean, all you guys do is teach specialization. And so when CPAs come to me and say, hey, you've built this cost segregation business, I want to do that too. What I turn around and tell them is like, great. The first thing you should do is hire 20 engineers, because that's what I did. And then, I just fud them because it's fun. But like, it's not a slapdash kind of
bolt
read a
on your
book
website. Now you do it kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not, it's no joke. I mean, we take it very, very seriously, and we've built our own proprietary tools, and we have trained engineers, and we have an entire process and an entire system. And so,
and doing this does not require said listener to, meaning use you as meaning they can still keep their CPA. It's just you give the documentation to the CPA to justify the deductions that are happening. So it's a team effort, not, well, I can't use you because I'd be cheating on my CPA.
It's totally separate.
Totally separate.
Usually.
We love CPAs because we want to give your CPA such a good experience that they're incentivized to send us more work over time. So that we want to be the best interfacing, third party that your CPA could ever have, so that they go, holy smokes, I don't have to deal with this, and I don't have to do this, because CPAs have a lot to do. And that's why sometimes you'll bring some cockamamie idea like a cost seg to them, and they'll just go, nope, absolutely not. Well,
I know that it's amazing, by the way. It's amazing to me how much convincing that was a conversation we had as a sidebar of the mastermind. Your CPA's job is to plug your numbers and your K1s and your expenses into a formula and spit out, this is what you must pay. There's no incentivization for the CPA to save you money. There's no pay for performance. There's no like, hey, use everything available to the 6,000 pages of tax incentives. So there's, as we look at the CPA dentist relationship, they're not incentivized to do this type of thing. So when you ask your CPA and like, oh, you're not a candidate, you bought the building already, that's not true. Like, you've got to go to a trusted professional, and then you hand the loss schedule to your CPA and he just plugs it in. But the interface to get that done is often built with some friction. So I'm imploring you, do not just go to your CPA, go to Mitchell, go to somebody that we actually trust and work with. And that's why Dental Cost Seg exists, so that you can say, yes, you can do it. And then just send this to your CPA and make sure it's on your schedule.
Yeah, there's not like a network of referral and specialization in the CPA practice as much as there is within like dentistry. I had crooked teeth before I got Invisalign, and I had like this recessed gum thing that I'm sorry, y'all. Well, no one's afraid of that. But then they sent me to like a gum dentist. My dentist was like, you need to go down the hall, or you need to go 3 buildings over or whatever, and book this appointment 4 years from now and go see a specialist. And she wasn't afraid that like that specialist was going to take her job and start cleaning my teeth because that's not what they did. And it's weird that CPA firms and the CPA work doesn't quite work that way, because you don't want to ship out a client to another person and then
work. I think that's what it is. I think it's just extra work to say,
Yeah.
do you know there's a thing you could do called a cost seg? And I don't do it, but this guy does it. Like, what does the CPA benefit from that?
Yeah.
So it's just like, no, that doesn't work for you. We saw that with ERC, like, you know, with the employee retention credit, not to go down that rabbit hole, but like there was a lot of CPAs like, that won't work. That won't work. That
Or
doesn't
that's
work.
illegal, or you can't do it. And it's just like,
Or it doesn't work for you. It doesn't work because I mean, there's just such a preponderance of limited information. And unfortunately, dentists hear their CPA, and I'm not going on a CPA knock here, but they take, I'm sorry?
I wouldn't let you do that.
No, I know. But I do think that by default, a lot of our dentist listeners think of their CPAs as business advisors. And it's really, at the end of the day, like Randy said this weekend at the mastermind, you've got to do your own due diligence, just like in your healthcare and every other way. You've got to research and present these ideas to your professionals. I mean, when it comes to healthcare or whatever else, you've got to be your own advocate.
I'm the layman who always just asks the doctors questions, and I'm like an engineer by nature. So I ask all these questions and they just hate me for it. But it's like, that's what you're there for. And
right.
Yes,
or what would you do if you were me? Hey,
yeah.
CPA, if you had this building, what would you do? Oh, I'd definitely do there's not a CPA out there that wouldn't do a cost seg.
So,
but it's revolutionary.
So some of the CPA objections will be, it's all going to have recapture. And that's a legitimate objection. I mean, if you go sell the building in 2 years, you're going to have some recapture, but this is your office building. You built it so that you could be there forever, right? Or at least be there a long time. And even if you do have recapture, you got to enjoy all the money and all the compounding and all the time value of the money for as long as you did. And you got the savings the year that you bought the building. You get the recapture the year that you sell the building. So those are some considerations of that. The other objection would just be, that you can't take the losses because they're passive. Well, this is your building, so you can take them. There's a lot of there's this kind of line. The other objective is, it's really expensive. And look, we provide a free proposal. We'll just tell you what the cost benefit is right up front. So
I think we wrap on this. This is one of the biggest no-brainers in tax code, especially if you own your building. If you're a dentist who own your building, it's the biggest no-brainer. Reach out to Mitchell Dental.
Peter, let me ask you something. Have you ever I just talked all over you. Don't give me a bad review. He said dentalcostseg.com. One question for you, Peter, and I'm going to try to get this out right. Have you ever not done one on a building you've owned?
No.
Yeah, me neither. I've never not done one. I
don't know if I would buy the building. I don't know if I would be incented as much to buy the building and expand the way I've done without doing this.
Right.
So this has been the carrot. This has been the carrot that said,
no, actually the fuel, Peter, the fuel, because the fuel, well, whatever. It's without having to pay the taxes, you get to put in the money to the next project. So
between this and 1031s, right, rolling up into another property without and deferring the taxes on the gain, the capital gain, or using this to accelerate the depreciation, you're right, has been the absolute fuel. So Mitchell, you obviously have gotten some exposure to us, but like Craig and I are proud of the fact that we are out there teaching dentists how to kind of operate and saving money and doing things efficiently and learning how to build your team. Like that's all the things that make quote unquote bulletproof, but being bulletproof is guarding your funds as well. And this is a great way to help, like Craig said, earn and keep your money and front load your deduction so you can use it as fuel in your career. So
I agree. Like why own a building and not do this?
And not do this.
Great question. So if you don't want to own a building, I get it. I mean, I think we just discovered why owning dental practices is particularly beneficial. But yeah, if you're going to own a building, get a proposal. It's free. Dentalcostseg.com. It's easy. It's free. It'll take you 5 minutes.
Mitchell, since you're now a regular guest, we're going to wrap. But what do you see yourself talking about next with our audience?
Yeah, what do you have?
You know,
You
the bookkeeping aspect, Craig, I got to tell you, like we talked about that a lot in our mastermind. It's just people's books are kind of a mess. I know we've been working with you to kind of help streamline that. So maybe streamlining that. I think that's a pain point with a lot of dentists.
Yeah, maybe bulletproof books. I think that's the
whip that up, Mitchell. Whip that up for us.
I'll whip it up for you.
Whip it up. Whip it up.
No, if you can make that happen, I mean, because that's like the biggest thing when we meet a new bulletproof person and we just try to go through their books. I'm like, wait, what? How is this even structured? Like, we're not even speaking the same language. You need like a third party interpreter, like some hieroglyphics or something.
But just getting data, right, that you can interpret and actually take action from. Most of the P&Ls and reports I get, I can take action from them because I've had to dig in. Most people look at it and they're like, yeah, that's great. That's a great report. Push it to the side. Just means nothing. So to be able to kind of design them, like Craig is saying, design them where someone can take action. Let's do that. That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think dentists having real, or like you sent me this thing early on when we were, getting to know one another about this bulletproof benchmarks, P&L statements, and understanding where your cost centers are and how much of your money you're getting to make. And the thing Craig always talks about, the cost of your own time as the dental practitioner is ultra important in terms of, man, if you're making less money running your own practice than you would be just working for somebody else, maybe you need to work for somebody else, or maybe you need to fix your business. So those are both options.
That entrepreneurial profit, really seeing what the benefit of you owning your business, not just not paying yourself a doctor's salary and saying that I'm making all this money. Because if you extract that 30% or 35, or whatever you want to call it, and see in a spreadsheet of what you're actually retaining for entrepreneurial profit, it's always a sobering experience. That'd be cool if that could be built into this idea too, by the way.
Let's go. There's no point in being, or like, look, back to this Cost Seg thing. I mean, this is a huge perk of owning your own business, but if you're not going to take advantage of the perks of owning your own business, dentists are very, very employable, and you can have a really, really good life working shift work and doing good things and kind of humming and drumming. You're always going to stay busy. But, when you take that step into owning your own business and grabbing the reins and taking control, I mean, you guys have both built awesome practices and awesome lives. And there's dentists in every town that do exactly what you're doing, but don't talk about it at all.
Well, thank you, buddy. I appreciate you. Appreciate you coming on and spending time with us again. Craig, do you have anything else in do you have anything else in closing, Craig? Or I'm just
proud that I'm proud that we've got Mitchell here, and I'm really thankful that we developed the relationship with someone as smart and knowledgeable to you, and that you're paying it forward and bringing this stuff to dentistry, because this is going to land on people as revolutionary. Unfortunately,
yeah,
it will. It will.
We brought Cost Seg to real estate syndicators that own, $50 million of real estate before, who didn't know what Cost Segs were. So don't beat yourself up if you're a dentist who didn't know. You're just,
and you got them to not pay taxes for the next 10 years, kind of thing.
Bingo. I'm like, hey, I got an idea for you. Wait, that's a good customer right there.
Yeah.
But thanks, guys.
All right, man. Well, it was good to talk to you again. And yeah, everybody, we'll see you next time on the Bulletproof Pod.
Thanks, everybody. DentalCostSeg.com.